morning, students. Today I am going to start the next section in this chapter, enzymes, that is enzyme kinetics, how the enzymes are functioning. All those things come under this topic, and the mechanisms, all those things. What is enzyme kinetics? It is the response of enzyme to different parameters like pH, temperature, concentration of enzymes or substrate. And that study relating to all these parameters, it is called enzyme kinetics. Then what is enzyme kinetics? It is that branch of science. It's a study of what? Study of response of enzyme. Response of enzyme towards what? Certain parameters. Which are the parameters? pH, temperature, concentration of enzymes or substrate. So, enzyme kinetics is a study of the response of enzyme to different parameters like pH, temperature, concentration of enzymes or substrate. What is the significance of kinetics? Why we are studying? What's the importance that we need to understand the kinetics? There, it helps to understand the mechanism. That term is important. Mechanism of enzyme action. By knowing the kinetics, we can understand the mechanism of enzyme action. Second, it helps to understand the response. That word is important. It helps to understand the response of enzyme to intracellular environmental changes. Helps to understand the response of enzyme to intracellular environmental changes. Third one, it helps to understand how enzymes controlled. How the enzymes are controlled. These are the three significance of understanding the kinetics of enzymes. Then velocity or rate of enzyme catalyzed reaction. How we are assessing. We can assess that the velocity of enzyme action by understanding the change of substrate to product per unit time. How many substrate per unit time it is converted to product. If so many substrates are converted to product in unit time, that means that much fast is that enzyme catalyzed reaction. In that way, we can understand the velocity or rate of enzyme catalyzed reaction. There's a simple representation, that is A plus B is equal to C plus D. This is the velocity of forward reaction, and this is velocity of reverse reaction. So all letters I think is clear for you. VF, rate of forward reaction, VR, rate of reverse reaction, A and B are reactants, C and D are products. Consider it is at equilibrium. This reaction is at equilibrium. At equilibrium condition, the VF will be equal to VR. Velocity of forward reaction is equal to velocity of backward reaction. So, there is no net change in substrate or products. Net change means the number of substrate and the number of products. On looking the number wise or concentration wise, we cannot understand any change because it always remains same. Because consider in the beginning of a reaction there is 5 substrate and 3 products, suppose. And after sometimes also the number of substrate is 5 and the product number also 3. That means it is going on equilibrium, the same pattern, same pace. But the reaction is carrying on there. How this is possible? Because that forward reaction and reverse reaction is happening in the same pace, same speed. So next, then we need to consider the concentration of A or B, that is the reactants. Uh, if we increase its concentration, what will happen? We are increasing the concentration of A or B. These are the reactants. If we increase its concentration, what will happen? Our forward reaction rate will increase. Because there is more availability of reactants is high there. So that's why forward reaction speed rate become increase and more products will be formed. And if we think in a reverse condition, if the product's concentration or number is high, then what will favor? The reaction will proceed to the left side. That is the rate of forward reaction. Rate of forward reaction is directly proportional to the product of concentration of reactants, that we can write as rate of forward reaction is directly proportional to the product of concentration of reactants. Similarly, the rate of this backward reaction, it depends on the directly proportional to the concentration of products. That how we can write. uh, next slide. Here, via means backward reaction. Here is directly proportional to the product of concentration of products. It can be write in another form by changing the symbol to this one equal sign and giving a constant here. Kf. Kf is a constant. Uh, so then VR, velocity of reverse reaction, backward reaction, is equal to a constant into concentration of product of products. Okay, in that form we got that equation now. Then we can say that this Kf, and also here also we gave another constant instead of this directly proportional symbol, that is Kf. Here it is Kr, it's a mistake. This is Kr, not Kf. Okay. This Kf and Kr, they are called proportionality constants. What is this name? Proportionality constant or reaction rate constant. Then we think at equilibrium, Vf is equal to Vr, that we already understand from the beginning itself. At equilibrium, rate of forward reaction is equal to rate of backward reaction. So as a result, there is no change, net change in the number of substrate or number of products. If 5 substrate is there, 5 products will be there. And 4 substrate is there, 4 products will be there. So there is no net difference in the number of products or substrates. Then at equilibrium, we are talking about that. We can write this equation in this form. Vf that we know that Vf is equal to Kf product of concentration of A to B, that we can take and write here. Equal to Kf is equal to product of concentration of A and B, that is substrates or reactants, is equal to Vr is equal to Vr is equal to this one we got here. We can take and substitute that value here, that concept here, that is Kr. Now it is correct, Kr. Here mistakenly I put as F. It is not Fr. Kr is equal to product of concentration of products, that is C and D. Then we got this equation in the form of equation. Then what we are doing? We are bringing that two constant to one side. Then that equation will become Kf by Kr is equal to concentration of CD, that is products, divided by concentration of reactants. Okay. Then the ratio of two constants This constant, which are the constant Kf and Kr, they are proportionality constant. The ratio of two constant Kf and Kr is another constant, which is called K equilibrium. We can again substitute this constant with another constant called K equilibrium. Then that equation become K equilibrium is equal to concentration of products divided by concentration of reactants. This is the equation, main equation of enzyme kinetics. K equilibrium is equal to product of concentration of products divided by product of concentration of reactants. Then we can view the summary of enzyme kinetics. Certain terms we come across while studying about or going through this elucidation, this derivation, sorry, not elucidation, derivation. K equilibrium is equal to K equilibrium, this one. It is the ratio of reaction rate constant of forward and backward reaction. So forward and backward reaction. This is the forward reaction. This is the backward. Because as the reaction proceed forward, then only we get this one. As the reaction proceed backward, then only we get this one. So ratio of reaction rate constant of forward and backward reactions. And equilibrium forward reaction is equal to backward reaction. And even if it is equal, that equilibrium is dynamic. Dynamic means at equilibrium state also there is changes or reaction is happening by the conversion of substrate to products. So it is not static, it is dynamic itself, that equilibrium condition. Then numerical value of K equilibrium can calculate at a specific time. At each specific time, it is possible to calculate the numerical value of K equilibrium. It is possible. We are going to see. If K equilibrium is 1, it means that reaction is at equilibrium. Equilibrium means concentration of products and reactants are equal. If 5 products are there, reactants also will be 5. That is K equilibrium is equal to 1. Then if K equilibrium value is greater than 1, then we need to understand that forward reaction is favored more and the reaction is proceeding towards the right direction. Right direction means reaction proceed towards the formation of products. And the concentration of reactants are more there. As the concentration of reactants are more, then that's why the reaction can proceed to forward direction more than towards the backward direction. That condition is explained by the value K equilibrium is greater than 1. Then if K equilibrium is less than 1 means the amount of reactants will be less, products number is more, then the reaction will proceed to backward reaction. This that is reverse reaction is forward. That's it. Then sixth point, the concentration of enzyme will not affect the equilibrium, but only it is increasing the rate of reaction. If we increase the concentration of enzyme, it will not affect equilibrium. But what it can do, it only can increase the rate. This is the summary of enzyme kinetics. If any question asking about not about enzyme kinetics, you need to start with this definition. What is enzyme kinetics? Then need to derive up to this equation from the beginning up to here. Then need to write this summary also. Enzyme kinetics. Next, the Michaelis-Menten equation. Michaelis-Menten equation is a very simple, easy representation is there. It is E for enzyme. Enzyme plus substrate binds and form enzyme substrate complex. It is reversible. Reversible means enzyme can combine with substrate to form enzyme substrate, and also reversibly it can dissociate to form again enzyme and substrate. So that reaction is reversible. Then enzyme substrate complex, from the enzyme substrate complex, what is forming? Product are forming and the enzyme is freed. This reaction is only forward, not reversible. We cannot reverse it. After forming the product, it is not possible to convert the product back to enzyme substrate complex and then to free enzyme and substrate. So this second stage is irreversible. So in that reaction, S is substrate, E is equal to enzyme. K1, K2, K3 are rate constant. This K1, K2 and K3 are rate constants. So we are going to derive one more equation. For that, the equation means this one. This equation describes how the reaction velocity varies with the substrate concentration. How the reaction velocity vary with respect to substrate concentration. As the substrate concentration increases, the reaction velocity will be more accelerated towards the forward direction. Then we can write it as V0 is equal to Vmax of concentration of substrate by Km plus concentration of substrates. And then we need to understand about each letters. V0 means initial velocity of any reaction. Vmax means maximal velocity. Maximum velocity. Km is Michaelis constant. Michaelis constant, we can write it as K2 plus K3 divided by K1. All this one we together we can rewrite as with the form Km. And concentration of S is the concentration of substrate. These are each letter. V0 is equal to Vmax concentration of S divided by Km plus concentration of S. Next, some assumptions we got from the Michaelis-Menten rate equation. Initial velocity. Initial velocity means the velocity at the point of time where there is no product is formed. It is the velocity of that reaction at which no product is formed. It is in the beginning stage of that reaction. At that beginning stage, what is the velocity? That is initial velocity. And when we are measuring that initial velocity, it is measured immediately after mix the enzyme with the substrate. Whenever we are adding the enzyme and substrate to the reaction medium on the spot, we need to note this initial velocity. Then relative concentration of enzyme and substrate. Relative means the concentration of substrate and the concentration of the enzyme. And here the concentration of substrate should be higher than that of the concentration of the enzyme. So that's why percentage of enzyme substrate will be less at a given time, because only few enzymes are available to bind with the substrate. That's why enzyme substrate complex is very less at a given time. But substrate concentration is more and the enzymes concentration is less when compared with the concentration of substrate. Okay, that is relative. According to Michaelis-Menten rate equation, the relative concentration with respect to enzyme and substrate, that's what I am telling. Its concentration of substrate is more than the concentration of enzyme. As this is the condition, the amount of enzyme substrate the complex will be less at a given time. Then steady state assumption. Steady state assumption means concentration of enzyme substrate complex will not change. That means rate of formation and rate of its breakdown remains always same. One time one enzyme combines with a substrate and then it is converted to product. At the moment itself another substrate combines with the enzyme. So that number of enzyme substrate always remains same. Understand? How is it possible? At the time of its breakdown itself need to constitute next enzyme substrate complex. By doing that, can keep that number of enzyme substrate complex but the same without any change. Steady. That is called steady state assumption. Then understanding about the Michaelis constant Km. On the very side of this Km, what we need to clearly understand is that Km means Km is equal to, what is Km? Km is actually a substrate concentration. Substrate concentration when a reaction is going on with a velocity half that of Vmax. I think you didn't understand that. Michaelis constant K എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ സബ്സ്ട്രേറ്റിന്റെ കോൺസെൻട്രേഷൻ ആണ്, അളവാണ്, നമ്പറാണ്. എപ്പോൾ മാക്സിമം സ്പീഡ് വി നോ. if a reaction is going on with a speed, that speed is half that of the maximum speed. Maximum speed എത്രയാണെന്നറിയാം, അതിന്റെ ഹാഫ് പകുതി സ്പീഡിൽ പോകാൻ ആവശ്യമാകുന്ന സബ്സ്ട്രേറ്റിന്റെ കോൺസെൻട്രേഷൻ, that is Km. So Km is actually a concentration of substrate to carrying out reaction in half Vmax speed. Okay. And then also it means that 50% of enzyme molecules are bound with the substrate. That also we need to understand. Km means it is the substrate concentration to carry out reaction velocity at half Vmax. For proceeding that reaction in half Vmax, what should be happen there? 50% of enzyme should bond with the substrate. Understand? It's unit. There's unit. Always that velocity we are expressed in the unit moles per liter. If the Km value is low, Km value low means that a substrate concentration. It denotes substrate concentration. That means that enzyme has high affinity towards that substrate. Understand? Once more I will explain. Small Km value, low Km value means എന്തുവാണ്, റിയാക്ഷൻ ഹാഫ് Vmaxൽ പ്രൊസീഡ് ചെയ്യാൻ വേണ്ടുന്ന സബ്സ്ട്രേറ്റിന്റെ കോൺസെൻട്രേഷൻ ആണല്ലോ പിന്നെ Km എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്. ദെൻ ലോ Km വാല്യൂ എന്ന് പറയുമ്പോൾ എന്തുവാണ്, ആ സബ്സ്ട്രേറ്റിന്റെ കോൺസെൻട്രേഷൻ കുറവാണ്, അത്രത്തോളം സ്പീഡിൽ ആ റിയാക്ഷൻ പോകേണ്ടത് കൊണ്ടുപോകാൻ. അപ്പം ഇത്രയും മതി, കുറച്ച് സാധനം മതി പിന്നെ എന്തുവാണ് 2-3 പേരുടെ വയറ് നിറയ്ക്കാൻ എന്ന് പറയുമ്പോഴത്തേക്ക് എന്തുമായിരിക്കും, ആ കുറച്ച് സാധനം അത്രയും എന്തുവാണ് ബെറ്റർ ആയതുകൊണ്ടല്ലേ. അതേ പോണത് അപ്പൊ Km വാല്യൂ കുറച്ച്, ലോ Km വാല്യൂ എന്ന് പറയുമ്പോൾ അതിൽ നിന്ന് മനസ്സിലായിക്കണം അത്രയും മതി ആ സബ്സ്ട്രേറ്റ്. ആ സബ്സ്ട്രേറ്റ് വന്നു കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ എൻസൈംസ് ഹാവ് ഹൈ അഫിനിറ്റി. എൻസൈംസിന് ഹൈ അഫിനിറ്റി ഉള്ളപ്പോഴാണ് Km വാല്യൂ കുറവ് മതി. കാരണം ഈ എൻസൈമിന്റെ അഫിനിറ്റി കുറവാണെങ്കിൽ Km വാല്യൂ കുറഞ്ഞിരിക്കാൻ പറ്റുമോ? പറ്റത്തില്ല. കൂടുതൽ സബ്സ്ട്രേറ്റ് കൊടുക്കണം. ക്ലിയർ ആയോ? എൻസൈംസിന് സബ്സ്ട്രേറ്റിനോട് അഫിനിറ്റി കൂടുതലുണ്ടെങ്കിൽ 1-2 ഇട്ട് കൊടുത്താൽ മതി, അപ്പോഴേ പോയി ബൈൻഡ് ചെയ്തു. എൻസൈംസിന് സബ്സ്ട്രേറ്റിനോട് അഫിനിറ്റി ഇനി കൂടുതലാണെങ്കിൽ, അതാണല്ലോ പറഞ്ഞത്. ഇനി എൻസൈംസിന് സബ്സ്ട്രേറ്റിനോട് അഫിനിറ്റി കുറവാണെങ്കിൽ ഒന്നിനോട് ബൈൻഡ് ചെയ്യാൻ ഇഷ്ടമല്ല, അപ്പൊ എന്ത് ചെയ്യും, കൂടുതൽ സബ്സ്ട്രേറ്റ് ഇട്ട് കൊടുക്കും, എങ്ങനെയും പോയി ബൈൻഡ് ചെയ്യും, എങ്ങനെയും പോയി ബൈൻഡ് ചെയ്യും പറഞ്ഞിട്ട്. ക്ലിയർ ആയോ? അത് മനസ്സിലാക്കുക. ഇപ്പൊ Km value means low Km value means that enzyme has high affinity to that substrate. That is, here only less substrate is required to reach half Vmax. That is good. Very less substrate is required to reach half Vmax. Then think about the other situation. Larger Km value. Larger Km value means that enzyme has already very less affinity towards the substrate. So what we can do, we just need to increase the number of substrate, amount of substrate to achieve that half Vmax rate. Now I think it's very clear to you. Okay. And then we are going to see the factors affecting the enzyme activity. Temperature. When the temperature increases, velocity of reaction also will increase till a limit. After that limit, that rate will fall. So normally, till reach a limit, the reaction rate will increases with the increase in temperature. After that limit, then the reaction rate falls. In your textbook, there will be some graphical representation for that. Anyway, the graphical representation for this relation is a bell-shaped curve. And at optimum temperature means the temperature at which maximum activity or reaction is possible. So for every reaction there will be some optimum temperature. Then also we need to understand about the temperature coefficient, another term relating with this temperature. Temperature coefficient means the exact ratio by which reaction velocity changes with every 10 degree rise to temperature is called temperature coefficient. It is that ratio. Temperature coefficient is that ratio. At that ratio, what is happening? That reaction velocity changes. How change? With every 10 degree rise. That ratio is called temperature coefficient. Most enzymes optimum temperature is 37 degrees Celsius except some hot spring bacteria. They can survive and can act till 100 degree Celsius. Then pH. This is an important question. Factors affecting enzyme activity. pH. For every enzyme there is an optimum pH. And either side of that pH, that reaction catalyzed by that particular enzyme will decline. So that optimum pH is very good. Then how this pH is influencing? It influenced by changing the charge on the active site amino acid. In the active site of each enzyme, some specific amino acids are present. By changing its charge, they influence the action of that enzyme. Then, for most enzymes, optimal temperature fall between 6 and 8. Exception is pepsin. Pepsin's pH, optimum pH is 2. Then alkaline phosphatase, another exception. Its optimum pH is 10. That's about pH. Then enzyme concentration. The rate of reaction is directly proportional to enzyme's concentration, provided if the substrate concentration is excess. Okay. We can increase the rate by increasing the concentration of enzyme, but the condition condition to be satisfied is that the substrate concentration should be in excess. Okay. Then substrate concentration. What about the substrate concentration? The concentration of substrate on enzyme activity is not uniform. It has two phases are there. Actually, initial phase and final phase is there. Initial phase means at initial phase substrate concentration is low. Since the substrate concentration is low, the reaction rate also will be very less. Final phase means maximum enzyme substrate saturation is attained there. So then At that moment, maximum velocity is there. There is a difference, substrate concentration wise difference during the enzyme activity. So at the beginning, the substrate concentration is less, so that time reaction rate is very less. And the final phase, the substrate concentration reaches the required limit, and there is yeah, enough amount of enzyme substrate complexes. And so at that time, Vmax is in that way that reaction can attain Vmax, maximum velocity. Then beyond the final phase means even if we think that the reaction rate will further increase if we add more substrate. It is not true. It will not happen because if we add more substrate, the reaction there will be no free enzymes still there to bind with that added substrate. So in that way, there is no further additional change in the rate of reaction. That's about the factors affecting enzyme activity. Then we are going to see enzyme activation. Enzyme activation. What is enzyme activation? It is the activating or inactivating enzyme. It's the action of activating or inactivating the enzyme. Then what are the strategies? Certain strategies are there. One strategy is that by activation with the help of some ions, we can activate some enzyme. And also we can activate some enzyme with the help of factors called cofactors or coenzymes. These are the two strategies. One more strategy is there. It's the conversion of a enzyme precursor to an active enzyme. Example, while we are studying about nutrition physiology, so many enzymes are first synthesized in inactive form. Pepsinogen is inactive form. Then by the action of some other agents, HCl, it is converted to active pepsin. That is an example for this strategy. Conversion of an enzyme precursor to an active enzyme. Next, we are going to see inhibitions. Very important question. Inhibition, which are the different methods of inhibition of enzyme action. This is a suppression of enzyme activity. And agents are called enzyme inhibitors. Different types of inhibitions are there. First one, competitive inhibition. As the name indicates, the inhibitor that is acting here has similarity with that of substrate. So there happens some competition between the substrate and inhibitor to go and bind with the enzyme. That is called competitive inhibition. So that inhibitor actually what is doing, it reduces the affinity of enzyme to substrate. What it doing? It reduces the affinity of enzyme to substrate. Whenever the inhibitor is present, it always forces the enzymes to bind with that inhibitor instead of that substrate. And as a result, we need to understand the values. What will be the value of two constants, two terms, that is Km value, Michaelis constant, what happens to Km, and also for Vmax. Vmax is otherwise called turnover. Turnover means that rate of dissociation of enzyme substrate complex to enzyme and product. This means dissociation of enzyme substrate complex. That much you need to understand. So first we need to understand what is Km. Km is the concentration of substrate required to proceed reaction in half Vmax rate. Then Vmax is the turnover. Turnover means the rate of dissociation of enzyme substrate complex. That we need to keep in our mind. So coming back to competitive inhibition. Competitive inhibition, now what is doing here, that inhibitor decreases the affinity of enzymes towards the substrate and it goes and bind with the enzyme. So what by doing what we can avoid this situation? How we can overcome this situation? Only by increasing the concentration of substrate. As we need to increase the concentration of substrate, it's very, very clear that Km value become high in competitive inhibition condition. Km value, what is Km value? That should be very clear in your mind. It is the concentration of substrate required to proceed reaction at a half Vmax. So, in competitive inhibition, Km value will rise, but the Vmax, that means rate of dissociation of enzyme substrate complex, will not affected. Understand? Clear? Okay. Then both the enzyme inhibitor and enzyme substrate are forming, but depending on the concentration of each, which is more. If inhibitor is more, that enzyme inhibitor will only be formed. If the substrate concentration is more than inhibitor, then what will form? Enzyme substrate will form. This inhibition is reversible. How we can reverse that inhibition? By increasing the concentration of substrates. Then we need to quote an example of competitive inhibition, that is inhibition of succinate dehydrogenase by malonate. Where we found this succinate dehydrogenase, I think as you have already learned and thorough all the cycles, then the very moment itself I ask you about an enzyme, you can answer me. Which is this enzyme? Succinate dehydrogenase is it acts as enzyme in one cycle, and also it is found in the biological oxidation also as in the form of a complex 2. Anybody remembering? Okay, anyway, succinate dehydrogenase is the enzyme converting succinate to fumarate. That enzyme's action is inhibited by the presence of the inhibitor malonate. Malonate actually resembles that of succinate. In that way, malonate binds with this enzyme and blocks the succinate to bind with this enzyme and thereby prevent the formation of fumarate. That is competitive inhibition. Then non-competitive inhibition. What is non-competitive? There is no competition between who? Between which all? There is no competition. There is no competition between substrate and the inhibitor. Here there is no competition. Why there is no competition? Because that inhibitor didn't have a structural similarity with that of the substrate. Then in what way it inhibits that enzyme catalyzed reaction? It binds another site, binds a different site in the enzyme. And after binding the enzyme, it modifies the active site of the enzyme's active site. It modifies the structure of the active site. But this change, modification is always happening after the formation of enzyme substrate complex. So, it is not blocking the formation of enzyme substrate complex. But what is doing? As it modifying the structure of active site after the formation of enzyme substrate complex, that complex cannot break up, cannot dissociate. If it cannot dissociate, then product will not be formed out of it. That is non-competitive. Non-competitive inhibition means there is no structural similarity between the inhibitor and the substrate. And then how the inhibitor prevent that reaction by binding a different site in the enzyme. Then how it prevent that reaction from proceeding to forward, that it modify the structure of active site of the enzyme after the formation of enzyme substrate complex. Then we need to think about the values of Km and Vmax. Here this inhibitor is not doing anything with the affinity of enzyme. As it is not affecting the affinity of enzyme, there is no chance for the chance for increase or decrease in the value of Km. It can proceed normally. Clear. So that Km value is not affected here. Why it is not affected? Because this inhibitor is not causing any change in the affinity of enzyme towards the substrate. So Km value is not affected. But as it prevents the dissociation of enzyme substrate complex, Vmax get affected. It become reduced. Clear? Okay. Then examples for non-competitive inhibition. Certain drugs are there, poisons are there, pesticides are there. And one best example is that cyanide. Cyanide inhibits the action of cytochrome oxidase in this non-competitive method. Then we are going to see uncompetitive. Time-wise, it has some similarity with the non-competitive. Then what is the difference here? Uncompetitive inhibition. Here also that inhibitor have no affinity towards the enzyme, but it has affinity towards what? Towards enzyme substrate complex only. In non-competitive, what is the condition? It binds the enzyme itself before the formation of enzyme substrate complex. But modification is affecting only the dissociation of enzyme substrate complex in the case of non-competitive. In uncompetitive means that inhibitor can bind only to enzyme substrate complex. It cannot bind with the enzyme before it bind with the substrate. So it increases the affinity of enzyme to substrate. So what this inhibitor is doing, it can bind with the enzyme only after when the enzyme binds with the substrate. So it always help support the enzyme to go and bind with the substrate. That means it increases the affinity of enzyme towards the substrate. As the enzyme has more affinity to the substrate, then Km value will decrease. And also Vmax also decrease because that inhibitor is binding with the enzyme substrate complex and prevent the dissociation of enzyme substrate. So in that way, Km value decreases and also Vmax value also decreases. It is very rare in one substrate reactions. This method of inhibition can occur in multiple substrate reactions. And it is not reversible. It is not reversible also. Example is the inhibition of placental phosphatase by inhibitor called amino acid phenylalanine that you need to by heart for writing in your examination. Example for all type of inhibitions very important and otherwise you will lose your marks. You need to cite one example. Here, uncompetitive inhibition. Example, the inhibition of placental phosphatase by amino acid. Which amino acid? Phenylalanine. Phenylalanine inhibit the action of placental phosphatase. Next, we are going to see another type of inhibition that is called suicide. Suicide means, suicide we know. Suicide type of inhibition. It is again a irreversible inhibition. It is irreversible inhibition. Here, what is happening? Suicide means an inhibitor is similar to the structure of substrate. But what is the peculiarity? Here, that inhibitor is known by another name called pro-inhibitor. This is the enzyme. And instead of the actual substrate, the inhibitor that is known as pro-inhibitor, which has structural similarity with the substrate, goes and bind with the enzyme. That enzyme will be a subunit of a multi-subunit enzyme. And that is what is resulting. So many reaction steps will proceed as it go normally without any effect. So a next product is formed. That means that substrate is changed to another form. Then what is happening? Then again one more enzyme is acting and another product is formed. That means that reaction can proceed to certain extent without any effect. After reaching certain steps, what is happening? That product in turn will move and block the activity of enzymatic activity of the first enzyme. It acts as the inhibitor of the first enzyme. Understand? Once more, the enzyme is there, pro-inhibitor command bind, and that substrate get converted into a product. Then that product is acted upon by another enzyme and get converted to another form. And that intermediate act as a inhibitor of the first enzyme. Here, the inhibitor in that reaction cascade. Why it is called cascade means there is so many steps are there. The intermediate of that reaction cascade itself acts as a inhibitor of the first enzyme. So it is called suicide inhibition. Since the initial compound is converted to another, this compound is actually converted to another, that is product 2, and that product 2 in turn is going and inhibiting. That's why this inhibition is called suicide inhibition. Since the inhibitor use enzymes on reaction mechanism, this inhibitor use the enzymes on reaction mechanism for inhibiting that enzyme itself. So this inhibition is always also called mechanism based inactivation. Suicide inhibition is always otherwise called mechanism based inactivation. This example is xanthine oxidase inhibition by allopurinol. Xanthine oxidase, its action is inhibited by the pro-inhibitor allopurinol. That means allopurinol have structural similarity with the actual substrate of xanthine oxidase. Then what is the actual substrate of the xanthine oxidase? It is xanthine. So this allopurinol have structural resemblance with xanthine and binds with xanthine oxidase. And from that, during the reaction, proceed by that xanthine oxidase, a product called alloxanthine is formed. That alloxanthine go and binds with the xanthine oxidase and inactivate it. Then here, this allopurinol is the pro-inhibitor and the intermediate that inhibit the action of xanthine oxidase is alloxanthine. Okay, next is allosteric or end product inhibition or feedback inhibition. From the name itself, it is very clear. What the end product or what is the end substrate formed, it itself acts as a inhibitor of the first enzyme. The other one, in suicide inhibition, the intermediate means that intermediate substrate acts as the inhibitor of the first enzyme. Here, the end product acts as the inhibitor of the first enzyme. Here in this pathway, the inhibitor is usually the end product of the reaction. it binds the allosteric site of the enzyme. And after binding, it alters the 3D configuration of the active site, and it makes difficult for the substrate to come on with that active site. Similar to that of in non-competitive inhibition. But some difference is there. In non-competitive inhibition, that Km value, what happened to Km value in non-competitive is unaffected, because as the inhibitor is not decreasing or increasing the affinity of enzyme, in non-competitive inhibition there is no change in Km value. But here, as the inhibitor alter the active site of enzyme, it reduces the affinity of enzyme to substrate. So that means Km values increase, but Vmax, but uh, it will not prevent the dissociation of enzyme substrate complex. So the Vmax is unaffected. Clear? Then what is doing this allosteric inhibitor? It binds the allosteric site of the enzyme and modified its active site. When an enzyme got its active site modified, it loses its affinity towards the substrate. So the Km value need to be high to form the enzyme substrate complex. When the enzyme substrate complex is formed, then the reaction can proceed forward very easily. There is no restriction for breaking or dissociation of enzyme and substrate. So Vmax is not affected. And the kinetics of this inhibition did not follow Michaelis kinetics. So that graph obtained is that of a sigmoid kinetics, and that substrate saturation curve shift to right. Shift to right means that substrate concentration we need to increase. That's why that shifting is occurring. This inhibition also we can reverse partially. Partially means how? By increasing the substrate concentration, we can partially reverse that inhibition, or by decreasing the end products. By decreasing the end products or by synthesizing more enzyme, we can partially reverse this type of inhibition. Then we need to quote an example. That is aspartate combines with aspartate combines with the carbamyl phosphate. The enzyme acting here is aspartate trans carbamylase. From it is first product form is carbamyl aspartate intermediate. So many intermediates are there, and final end product is cytidine triphosphate. Cytidine triphosphate. This end products then inhibit the action of aspartate trans carbamylase. This is an example of allosteric or end product inhibition. Next, the last one is called substrate linked inhibition. Substrate linked inhibition means enzymes inhibition by excess concentration of substrate. Means if we are keep on adding the number of substrate, it will inhibit the action of enzyme. And that enzyme action again restarted only when the concentration of substrate returns to the normal normal level. That is substrate linked inhibition. In that way, we finished what are the different types of inhibition. Very, very important question. Next, isoenzymes. Isoenzymes means first we need to understand what is isoenzymes. They are multiple form of same enzyme. Isozymes are multiple form of same enzymes. Difference only there with respect to their electrophoretic mobility, or with respect to a molecular structure or affinity towards the different substrates, or is a response to different inhibitors. What is electrophoretic mobility? It is written here. Anybody didn't know can go through this. It is the mobility of the charged colloidal particles when given electric field. That is electrophoretic mobility. So that is isozyme. Isozymes are multiple form of same enzyme. Certain difference may exist among the different forms with respect to electrophoretic mobility, molecular structure, affinity towards the different substrate like that. The classification of isozymes. Isozymes can be classified into homologous. Homologous means isozymes with a similar structure. Such type of isozymes are called homologous. And these homologous and isozymes have similar catalytic properties also. Then analogous means what? They have same catalytic property, but their molecular structures are different. What's the difference? Then homologous produced by multiple alleles of same gene. These homologous are usually produced by multiple alleles. It means alternative form of gene. Multiple alleles of a gene is actually forming this homologous isozyme. Then analogous isozymes are formed by different genes, not of same gene. Different genes located on different chromosomes. That's why that change in their molecular structure happen. Examples: lactate dehydrogenase isozyme has 5 different forms from LD1 to LD5. With this, we are going to stop today's section. Thank you.